Hello class, this is a video tutorial on solving two-step equations. So like with anything, like with any equation, we always need to know what the inverse operations are and balancing equations. So inverse operations are, if you have addition, the inverse is subtraction. If you have subtraction, the inverse is addition. If you have multiplication, the inverse is division. And if you have division, the multiplication is the inverse. And in balancing equations, we have to always remember what you do to the left, you do to the right. Now here's a new aspect of solving equations, is that multiplication and division applies to all terms. By that we mean, if for example we had this equation, 3x minus 7 equals 11. If we choose to do this inverse first, so 3 times x, 3 times x, the inverse of this would be divide by 3. But the only difference now is that when you divide this by 3, you not only divide the right hand side by 3, but you actually have to divide every other term by 3. So if there were actually more terms on this side here, you would divide every single one of them. Okay? And it works the same with division. So if we had, for example, x over 4 plus 7 equals 10. If we choose to do this inverse first, we'd actually have to multiply by 4, not just on this or the right hand side. We actually have to multiply this term as well. Okay. The reason why it's important to know this is, especially with ones like these, if we continue this one, we actually would get, take a look here, we actually would get 3x divided by 3. Well, that just leaves us with x. Minus 7 over 3. Well, that's just negative 7 over 3. Because 7 doesn't divide by 3. And this also has 11 over 3. We get these very strange and very weird fractions, which makes it very difficult, but it's not impossible. But we try and avoid making things hard for ourselves here in mathematics. And similarly with this one, if we multiply by 4, we actually would get x on its own. 7 times 4 is plus 28, and 10 times 4, there's an equal sign here, 10 times 4 is 40, and then we would solve this equation. But the main point that you have to remember is when you multiply or divide, you have to apply it to every single term in the equation. Okay, so let's just do a few examples of these. So we go with the first style, 1a. We have 5x plus 7 equals 22. Okay, so with this one, we try our best not to make things too complicated, like having fractions here. So the first thing that we should be doing is actually this addition. Okay, this addition inverse. So plus 7, the inverse is minus 7. So we're going to minus 7 to both sides, which will give us 5x on its own, because now the 7 goes away. 22 minus 7 is 15. The inverse of this one is 5 times x, so the inverse is divide by 5. The inverse, so we apply it to the left as well. And so we apply it to the right as well, which leaves us with x on its own. 15 divided by 5 is 3. So we get another one going on here. Question B. We have 9y minus 8 equals 1. So we try to do the addition and subtraction first. So the inverse of minus 8 is plus 8. So we're going to add 8 to both sides here, which will leave us with 9y on its own because the 8 will now go away. So 9y on its own is equal to 1 plus 8 is 9, which leaves us with the inverse of this one. So the inverse of this is divide by 9, dividing both sides by 9, which leaves us with y equals 9 divided by 9 is 1y. 9 divided by 9 is 1. I'll just do this last one for you, and I'd like for you to try pause the video. I want you to give this one a go on your own. 3m minus 7 minus 11. Give this a go. Pause the video. Okay, I hope you had enough time there. So I'm not going to be writing the inverse. So we're going to be adding 7 first. So we're going to get 3m is equal to 18. The inverse of this is dividing by 3, which leaves us with m is equal to 18 divided by 3 is 6. Okay, now let's do the next style that we're going to come across. We have x over 3 plus 5 is equal to 6. Now, for explanation purposes, I'll show you what happens if we do this in 2 different ways. Okay. I'll show you the normal way that I would do it. Okay. So with this one, I would actually do this subtraction first. So the inverse of this is minus 5. So we're going to minus 5 on both, which will leave us this fraction on its own. So we have x over 3 is equal to 6 minus 5 is 1. Then the inverse of this is times by 3, timesing both sides by 3, which will give us x on its own is equal to 3. Okay, so now I'm going to do this exact same question underneath here. So I'm going to do 1ai. So we have x over 3 plus 5 equals 6. So if we chose to do this multiplication first, remember we have to apply it to all terms in the equation. So I'm going to multiply by 3 first. So we multiply to each and every one. So this is now going to be x on its own plus 5 times 3. Well, that's 5 times 3. That's plus 15 equals sign. 6 times 3 is 18. And then if we do the inverse of this one, if you subtract 15, you actually find we come to the exact same solution. 15 minus 15, that's 0, so x is on its own. 18 minus 15 is 3. Now if you take a look, we have the exact same solution for both. Okay, so I'm just gonna do a few more examples here. Question B, we have x over 9 minus 2 equals 3. This one I'm going to do the addition first, so we're going to add 2 first. This will leave us with that on its own, so it's going to be x over 9 on its own 3 plus 2 is 5. Timesing by 9 here. So we're going to times by 9, times by 9, which leaves us with x on its own is equal to 45. Just for explanation purposes, I'll repeat the exact same question, going in a different process. I'm going to multiply by 9 first, so times by 9 every single term, which will give us x on its own. 2 times 9 is 18, but it's a negative 2, so we have minus 18, equals 3 times 9. 3 times 9 is 27. Then if we add 18 to both sides to get this inverse, we will get x on its own, because it's minus 18 plus 18. 7 plus 8 is 15, carry the 1. 1 plus 2 is 3, plus 1 is 45. Once again, we get the same solution. Do the last one here. Question C. We have x over 4 plus 7 is equal to 10. With this last one, I'm just going to go ahead, solve this without showing you the inverse. I want you to see if you can follow along. So we remove the 7, we subtracted 7 on both sides, then we get x is equal to 12. I'm just showing you one more time, question C, part I. We get x over 4 plus 7 equals 10. If we multiply by 4 first, we get x plus 28 equals 40. Minusing by 28, we get 32 minus 2 is 12. We get the same solution. So this is the first part in solving, in doing two-step equations. Hope that helped.